It's a pretty fine trailer. I'm ready for episode 1. But before we do that, I'd like to bring out one of the stars of The Art of More. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dennis Quaid.
All right, so this tutorial will be explaining how to use the iPhone 6.
I've watched the show. It is pretty damn fun. And your character, did you just have a blast playing this guy?
Yeah, he was really a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun on the page, and they already had 10 episodes pretty much written by the time we got there. So we had a beginning and a middle and an end. You could see where the character was going. And it's a fun world. I mean, this art auction world. It brings out the best in everybody. Greed, lust, envy, and betrayal, as well as love. And it was a great cast and just a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, I mean, the show has so many beautiful things to look at, whether it's sex, when you're talking the actor, the actress, the money, the cars that are out there. I didn't know about the seedy world of auctions and these auction houses. And I think a lot of people just think, oh yeah, I see some priceless heirloom being auctioned for $3 million and that's what they do. Well, there's a hell of a lot more behind getting that item into the auction. And you and Carrie Ellis and the whole cast really does a great job of showing what, at least I'd like to think, that world is like. I know it's somewhat fictionalized, but you guys go, I mean, any means necessary in order to get what you want.
Well, I mean, the vast majority of what goes on in the art auction world is on the up and up. Of course it is, but it doesn't really make for great drama, does it, for the most part? But, there's a seedy side to everything. And this is, every time it's on the news where, some Van Gogh sold for $400 million or whatever, it always turns my head. Or Elvis Presley's guitar or whatever it was. And I've always been interested in that. I think we all are. And
absolutely.
It's another world that we don't know about, and this is in our show. It really kind of pulls the curtain behind what's going on.
Now you're a musician. If you saw, I mean, would you be tempted a bit on a Hendrix guitar or something Lennon played, or I mean, you just saw a Ringo Starr's drum kit went for a ridiculous amount of money. Does that tempt you at all?
Well, Ringo played my guitar when we were doing Caveman together, so I don't know what I get for it. But yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, things like that are just my things that are precious to me. But as far as art, and I've always really been interested in art and loved art, and I've collected a few pieces, along the way. Not at auction houses, but I have been to auction houses.
Now, Christian Cook plays Graham Connor, and he is a Brooklyn kid, Tommy, I mean, as you've learned in the pilot, who is a soldier and again, like I said before, any means necessary. He will find the art one way or another, and we'll leave it at that and let everyone else sort of find out for themselves what goes on. But he ends up entering this world, and I think the pilot does a really good job of bringing you in, because maybe you don't know that much about auction houses and you don't know that much about art and what this painting might be worth and what this statue is. But you see him be incorporated into this world, and then he's got to land the big fish, the big accounts, and the next big auction. And the next big auction is your character's auction. And he's battling Kate Bosworth's character to get on your good side and make sure that you're going to be working with one of their firms. And as they battle back and forth, you just play both of them to no end. Like, you know exactly what they want, why they're there. And your first line, I believe, or one of your first lines in the show is, I have FU money. And you basically take it from there. You have a ton of money. You have aspirations that maybe go beyond art. And as they try to cater to you, you just get to play them any which way. And you've got, Kate on this side, and you've got Christian on that side, and you're the one, it seems like, who's pulling all the strings. And there's that grin that you have right now in the show, and you could tell that you're just having a great time doing this.
Well, yeah, he gets to be a little bit of a puppet master. And he's pulling strings, and he knows more than the audience knows and more than the other characters know. That's what makes it a lot of fun. And he knows where he wants to go with it. And then, but this, it's in this show, that's everybody wants something in this series, in this show, and you see throughout the playing out of it that hardly anybody gets what they want. Really.
Unlike real life, of course, where we all
all get what we want in the end, if we just do the right things, right? And the part came along, and what was interesting about it, I mean, it's a guy who's a billionaire. He's a real estate mogul in New York City, and has aspirations for political office. That was the character that I got back in April. And
the character back in April, versus anybody who could possibly be like, who may be leading right now in one of the nominations for president. There seems to be some parallels there, intentionally.
Well, I mean, there were already parallels. It was very kind of Trump-like, because there's not many guys that do that to begin with. But we were at about episode 5 when he, announced he was running. We were shooting it, and it was just like a gift.
I think everybody feels that way.
Watch TV every day and find out what the scene's going to be.
Yeah, we're all having fun watching Donald do his thing, and as you do yours all throughout this program, you really don't know where it's going to go. And one of the things I really like about it is there's a lot of twists and turns within as the plot plays out, but they make a lot of sense. Like, you're not coming out of left field here. Like, you can see yours and other characters' minds sort of trying to think 2 or 3 steps ahead of the game, as this kid is trying to sort of land you as his big fish and make his way through this world.
Yeah, and I think my character sort of relates with the Graham character as well, because he recognizes something in him. He's a con artist.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, with who's a likable guy. Usually con artists are likable people, by the way. But he recognizes something in him that, draws him to him, and he kind of takes him under his wing.
Carrie Ellis plays Arthur Davenport, who's another, almost his mentor, who gets him into the business and really brings him along. But you could tell he's got an affection for his character as well, because he sees something in him that he sees in himself, where you don't want to bend the rules necessarily, but it's okay if you get to the ultimate goal, and that's what he does.
Yeah. Well, probably with Carrie's character is that he sees in Graham, like, that whole purity of the love of art for what it is, as art, and it's art versus the world.
Yeah, and it's this Brooklyn kid, and you're like, how did he get this love of art? He sounds very street in the beginning. He's a soldier, and you're thinking, there's no way this guy could be well-versed in all these collections. But you learn through his father and his upbringing throughout the show that he has a genuine love and passion for this stuff, and that impresses everybody that he's with.
Yeah. And everybody's got to come from somewhere, right?
Amen.
Right.
Amen. So let's talk about you being on the series and being in the world of Crackle. Just so you know, when the show goes up on the 18th, I believe is the date?
19th.
The 19th, excuse me. Thursday, November 19th. Not just one episode, all 10. And you can binge to your heart's desire. And I see all the smiles here in the room, because a lot of folks likes to consume their TV now and their entertainment that way.
Yeah, I myself do. In fact, when I really get excited is when I've already missed 3 seasons of something, and then discover it. And that, like, I did that with Breaking Bad. I missed like the first 3 seasons of it, and my wife and I just started watching it, and basically spent 2 weeks in bed. And it just so happened that the 4th season was just starting since we finished. I mean, It's a term that I don't think any of us had 2 years ago. Was binge watching, you know.
Well,
Other than a Simpsons marathon on Fox, that was about it.
I can remember, I mean, you had to wait for a show to go into syndication or repeat in order to catch up on it. Not too long ago, a little bit long ago. But now, yeah, I mean, hey, I heard about this show. Well, okay, spend a couple of nights and you can catch up to as many seasons as you want and get right up to date.
You can watch all 10 at once if you want, or spread it out according to your heart's desire. I mean, that's nothing new. And then it's a streaming show, and it really kind of set up as that. And the difference being is with Crackle, it's free. You don't need to pay a subscription. All you got to put up with is 7 minutes of commercials within an hour show. You know how many? I think right now it's like at least 16 to 20 minutes of commercials that you'll see in an hour show.
Yeah, so you're already saving time there.
Yeah.
And Crackle, I mean, those of you who may not be familiar with it, you know, a Seinfeld show, Comedians Cars Getting Coffee is on there. Joe Dirt 2 came out on there. Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad, his cartoon Super Mansion. I got to interview him at San Diego Comic-Con. He's one hell of a trip, Cranston. But his show is on there. And it seems to me that if the show is a quality show, if the programming is good, people are going to find it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's going to stay. You know, everything gets its chance, and then if it's a good quality show, people are going to show up and they're going to stay with it because you get interested in the characters and you get interested in the story. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, you don't have to sell that part.
And okay, let's dig a little deeper into your wonderful life and career. When you're doing, Breaking Away with the Cutter team back in the day, did you imagine that your career would take the arc that it did? I mean, you were so successful in film. You're in television. I mean, I loved your show, actually, Vegas, which was on for a season a couple years back. But you've played so many different iconic characters. Yet the thing I always love about watching your performance, and I am sucking up to you because I'm sitting right across from you, is that when you're playing that character, not only do I totally buy that you're that character, but I almost I'm along for the ride of the joy or even pain you're experiencing as you're doing it. And I think, I can list so many different roles that you've played. I just know if Dennis Quaid is going to be in a project, I'm going to check it out. And that's, I guess, the biggest compliment I can give you. But I wonder, does it matter if it's TV, if it's movies, or does it all come down to whatever the role is and how you sort of grow affectionate towards it, or not?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, thank you very much, by the way.
You're welcome.
That does feel good. It's better than poking in the eye with a sharp stick. Feels good.
There are about 8 questions in there. I apologize for that.
Back when I was doing Breaking Away, all I wanted to be was a working actor. That was really my first dream when I started out in college drama and came out to L.A. and I got a part and got another part a little while later. Got Breaking Away, that made things easier, and then I got The Right Stuff and made things a lot easier, and then I got The Big Easy, and all of a sudden things were maybe they were really easy. So, but it's I feel lucky to have still be here, by the way, and I have more fire in my belly acting now than I did in my 20s. I just love it.
Why do you think that is? Like, what has changed over the years?
I don't know. Maybe I appreciate it more. I don't have to do it just for a living anymore. I do the things that I really want to do, and I just get excited about human nature, about what it is that makes somebody tick, and I get interested in them, and then I'm down the road with it, and I just get into it.
Look, another film that I loved you in was The Rookie, and I felt that going into that film, I was like, okay, it's a Disney-esque movie about baseball, and I really don't know how it's going to be, and I thought that was such a great, inspiring movie. Because, of course, right after I'm reading the real life story and what happened. But I think in a lot of your films, you take on roles that inspire people. And in that one in particular, because I'm a failed baseball player, I really appreciated it. And it looked like you can bring the heat. It looked like you can throw about 88, 90 miles an hour.
Well, I never put myself on a real radar gun because I didn't want to know.
How hard do you think you could throw?
I really don't know. I really don't know. Swear to God.
That's why I love the movies, because I think he throws 99 to 100,
Yeah. But Yeah, I had a really good time doing that. I just like that's the thing about what I do is that I've got to go into all these doors that say authorized personnel only. You know, uh, I got to play an astronaut, and I got my pilot's license from that. It was like during the rookie, like every Friday, I got to go down to Dodger Stadium while I was training for it and pitch on the mound, and with nobody in the stadium. It was like all these things that are unreal. These great dreams that you get to do.
That's awesome. Living the
It's
dream.
a fantasy life.
And you got to be Lindsay Lohan's dad in Parent Trap. So
Yes, I did.
So, I mean, who could
Yeah,
ask for
back in
anything?
the day, by the way.
And
So
by the
it was-
way,
yeah.
those of you who are she is excellent in that film.
She's really good. You forget that she's like, you think it's two characters.
Yes.
Well, it's one girl playing. We would stop and we'd refilm, while she did the other girl with the British accent. So
She's tremendous in that.
she's amazing in that movie.
And as is Dennis, of course. Now, let's get back to The Art of More, of course. I believe we have a couple clips. And the first one, you're with another lovely and talented actress, Kate Bosworth. So can we roll that clip? So that scene starts off, and it's like, okay, Dennis is just taking Kate to school here, and you're totally... it seems like you have complete control of the scene. And the next thing you know, Kate's on the offensive, and then that's again, this happens all throughout this program. There are all these mind games going on, and it's all about control and power. And at the end of that scene, I don't know who's really in charge there, other than you're the guy with the money and the collection, and she's trying to land you as an account and maybe something more.
Yeah, and then she really gets me.
She completes you? Is that what you're trying to say?
She completes me, I guess. Yeah, her character really gets under my skin a little bit. Just can't get rid of her idea of her and stuff. And it's the way it is with him, for them.
But she knows how to push your buttons.
Yeah.
You could see that. And
Yeah, she's good at it.
And you know how to push hers
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think he thinks he's in love with her, but he also thinks she'd make a great political wife, And he's messed up. He doesn't know what he wants, but he knows exactly what he wants, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Has no idea what he wants, and
Right.
that's exactly what he wants.
Right.
But he wants to be in charge. He wants to be, the one calling the shots.
Right.
And Kate, what was it like working with her on the show?
She's fantastic. I mean, everybody says that about people that they work with and stuff like that, but she really is. I mean, there's not a diva inside her, and she's always just right there with you, in the moment. And that's all you can ask for somebody. That and good humor.
That's got to be a pleasure.
Leave it at the door.
Yeah, I mean, but that's got to be
Yeah.
a pleasure on the set, because I'm sure some sets you've been on, that hasn't necessarily been the case, and then all of a sudden, it becomes, not that it's work, but it becomes work.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as that relationship plays out, on the other side, you've got Christian, is playing Graham Connor. How's he going to compete with that? Kate, it seems like, has you not eating out of her hand, certainly, but she seems to have the upper hand. And Graham's really...
Well, chicks always do, don't they?
Yeah. You think?
They always have the upper hand.
So how does he compete with something like that? What does he do? I mean, how's he gonna appeal to your character to get him on your side?
How's he gonna what? I missed the last part. I was still back there thinking about that.
I don't blame you. I'm thinking about Kate in that scene, to tell you the truth. No, when he comes at you in the pilot, I mean, he knows sort of how to get to you, whether it's through riches, whether it's through women, whether it's through art. He plays all the angles. That's what I like about his character.
Yeah.
He will not quit until he's exhausted every angle and make sure that, you're going to be in his pocket.
Right. Well, I guess he's like The Apprentice. That with Graham. He's. I think he's the. You'll find out if you watch the story. You'll find out. I don't want to give too much away.
I like how you brought it
About,
back. I like how you brought it back to Trump, by the way, with The Apprentice. Well done.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. How about that? I was thinking of the sorcerer in The Apprentice, but okay, you take it any way you want.
All right. Well, let's see another clip that we have, and this is Graham. We're talking about interacting with Mr. Quaid.
It could be a drug deal, couldn't it?
Yeah. I don't know what's he breaking out next.
Well, it's the way it is with art makes people crazy.
Well, and again, I'm not giving away too much, but he spent some time in Iraq and met some people and managed to get access to certain objects of art that he brings back into the country, and he's the guy that can get you things, as they like to say in some prison movies. He's
on the side.
Exactly. And but now he comes in very raw in the beginning, and you see him gain more polish in this auction house sort of world. And when you look at these auctions and as they're going down, I mean, everyone's seen them when you raise your placard and you bid X amount of millions of dollars. When you watch it in this show, though, there's so much more tension behind that because you're invested in the characters. You know what the stakes are, and these high-ticket items. It's not even, oh my God, they're paying so much for it, but what it means to the person to actually bid and how the money is made on the auction house side as well.
Yeah, I mean, any purchase like that, I guess it's like the same like when you're buying a house. It's you're paying like a lot of money, and it's a very emotional decision in the end, and you're competing.
Yeah, when you hear the millions and you see the hesitation before they're raising that placard, I mean, even though a lot of them have some FU money, they're still thinking twice about dropping it before whatever object they're going to acquire.
Yeah. I mean, $5 million is $5 million, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. 5 million, anyone out there? 5? No? Okay. Yeah. We'll move on then. Another thing I wanted to ask you about the show being on Crackle, which again, you can get on the app, you can get on the web. It's free. You'll be able to binge the entire series, which I highly recommend because I'm a binge guy, as you could probably tell. But when you're watching the show and you're really sort of getting involved in it, another thing I like about it is that you speak how normal people speak. There's no censorship. If you want to say something, my apologies to the Apple family here, if something bugs the shit out of you, you just say it. And that adds another level of realism to the show, because when you're having these down and dirty conversations, they get down and dirty. You're not trying to pull back.
It's about the way people talk. You know? That's what it all comes down to, and you just don't want to feel like you're being censored in that. That's basically what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I like the level of realism that it adds to the characters in the show, because it gets gritty. I mean, when you're at war in Iraq, you're not saying, hello, how are you today? Perhaps you can move to the right so I can aim my... It doesn't go down like that. I mean, you want to add that level of realism into the show.
Well, I think, in general, what is going on in the world of television is, there's this revolution. I mean, it reminds me of what was going on in the movies back in the 70s, where the studios, they were making The Sound of Music and, Toby Tyler and, these big bloated movies that, were, for the Parent Trap. It was all good, but wasn't a realism. It was something that really connected with people on an everyday basis. And what's going on in television right now is like you feel like the inmates have taken over the asylum in a way. I think, where you have these shows that I feel as a viewer that I really relate to. I become very personally connected to, rather than just a 2-hour experience, for the most part, which is, it's very exciting to be in television now.
Yeah, and some shows you can have a 10-hour experience, a 20-hour experience, depending on how many seasons there are, and you just, as you said earlier, get immersed in that world and in that culture, and you feel, whether it's a Game of Thrones or a Breaking Bad,
right?
Or, I mean, you're just in that world, and there's no place you'd rather be.
Right.
Now what I'd like to do is turn the mic over to you guys and open this up to see if anybody has some questions for Dennis Quaid. You've got your hand raised right there. Please say your name and let us know what your question is. And Pablo's coming over here, so now you can say your name or her name if you know it, and let us know what your question is for Dennis Quaid. Go right ahead.
Sorry, I don't know your name. My name is Adam. In regards to these type of stories, whether it's Wall Street, your series, The Great Gatsby, there's always this stereotype that the rich are so evil and bad. And is it necessarily a bad thing to want and to be materialistic and to just collect? I mean, you're not necessarily hurting anybody. There's a sentiment about gaining more. So would you say your character has a shade of gray. Can I necessarily call him bad, or like you would see in Wall Street? Do you sort of break that stereotype in regards to a money-making character?
Well, that's because rich people are evil, by the way, Adam. But aside from that, it's the whole idea. It's a dramatic device to power corrupts or whatever. But I myself, I don't see him as I don't play Sam Brukner as. To me, he's not an evil dude. He's just trying to get what he wants, and he's got his own heart, even though he doesn't show it to anybody. But there's some sensitivity down to him. I mean, the same way you play Hitler if you were playing him, who would believe it? I mean, the man loved dogs. But it's human beings. We're very complex. That's the way I see it, and we behave according to the circumstances of our lives, and I don't think it has to do with rich or poor or this or that. I think it's your genes and the way you grew up.
I think you were going with like a greed is good sort of angle there, but not really money, more for art. Because if you're collecting artwork, there's something.
Yeah, greed is good as long as it's my greed coming my way, right?
Yeah, well,
that is all great.
Then greed's good for everyone.
I've got an explanation for it.
Thank you for your question. Let's go over to this young lady over here who Adam interrupted. What's your name and what's your question for Dennis Quaid?
Hi, I'm Casey. Thanks for coming.
Hey, Casey.
I'm just curious, in your long career, what maybe your favorite role was? Which one did you enjoy playing the most?
My absolute very favorite role, with no hesitation, was The Right Stuff, playing Gordo Cooper. Because I was a kid in Houston, Texas, which became Space City, and the original 7 astronauts were there. And Gordo Cooper was my favorite astronaut as a kid. He was the youngest. He was like the rock and roll astronaut. And then they wrote the book, The Right Stuff, and I read it cover to cover. And I said, if they ever make a movie of this, I want to play Gordo Cooper. But that was an impossible dream in a way. But then I got an audition for it. I mean, it was already given to somebody else, the part. And he decided he didn't want to do it. I got an audition for it. And I went in and I got it. I couldn't believe it.
Talk about living the dream.
Yeah, and then the very next week after I got it, of course, because I like to do all that research stuff, I found out Gordo Cooper lived 3 miles from me over in the San Fernando Valley, and I called him up. We became really good friends. He turned me on to a flight instructor, and I got my pilot's license, and then I wound up flying jets, and Chuck Yeager was on the set every day, and it was 9 months to shoot, and it was like it was like a dream. It was a fantastic experience.
Did you grow up wanting to be an astronaut or wanting to fly?
That's all. Every place wanted to be a cowboy. I mean, I grew up in Texas, so the cowboy thing, but it replaced it right then and there.
And now you're hanging out with Chuck Yeager and Gordon Cooper and playing him in a movie. And
I still want to be an astronaut.
You should go up there.
I should. They should send me up.
Yeah.
I could use this forum right here to start that.
There you go. Yeah. Everyone go on to DennisQuaidUpInSpace.com and we'll get him up there. Yeah. Good question. We have another question.
Yeah, send him to space.
Hi, my name is Stacy. I read a long time ago, or that earlier in your career, and I will say this, that you have one of the best smiles in the history of cinema, but you were told that your smile wasn't big enough, and then you went on to have this illustrious career. Do you feel now on set that you have some sort of responsibility to convey to these younger and up-and-coming actors, to say to them, like, kind of ignore the noise and keep going, or did that kind of motivate you?
Yeah. Wow. You really read the bio, for God's sake. But it wasn't my smile that was big. It was my teeth, he said, wasn't big enough. It was a casting director outside of I forgot the name of the movie I was going up for. But, yeah, I mean.
Your teeth
You
weren't
take
big
a lot
enough?
of your self-esteem takes a lot of knocks when when you want to be an actor. It just does. Like every day, you wake up with hope in your heart. And you get knocked down. It's a lot of rejection. This is time and time and time again. It's 100 no's and one maybe, and hopefully that turns out to be a yes. And And then, you got to love it. That's the thing I tell people. If you just love it that much, then it's not going to matter. You're doing something you love to do. And the best thing is getting paid for it. Getting paid for it handsomely is even better. But that's what I tell my kids. Do what you love in your heart, and try to figure out a way to make a living out of that. That's the best life you can have.
And having a nice smile helps, right?
It'll help you smile.
Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
I'm Chantal. Again, thank you for being here. This is such an enjoyable
Thanks for
pleasure.
coming.
And thank you to the Apple Store for even hosting events like this. Well, my question is, you've had an amazing career so far, so many memorable movies, and just embodiment of characters. Is there something when you get a script that immediately calls to you that you know that this is the character that you want to be, this is the character that you want to embody and give face to and give life to?
Yeah, that's when I know. I mean, it's the first time I read a script, that's basically when that is when I know. Because when I read a script for the first time, it's like being a first-time audience member in a movie. You're just discovering it and how it rolls over you, how it makes you feel, and what it says to you, and how the character speaks to you and how you relate to them. And sometimes, though, I do. I'll read it, and they sent me like a script, or they want me to play this character, but it sends fear in my heart because I don't know how I'm going to do it. Although I want to do it, but I'm still like, how in the hell am I going to do this? But and that's for sure the thing I should do. If it really makes me afraid, that means I really should do it.
If there was any advice at all that you'd give to a young up-and-coming actor, what would it be?
Well, I think I just talked about it a little bit. Just make sure you really love it, and you really got to persevere, man. And you got to do something like a little bit of something like every day. You got to have a huge capacity to take a rejection, but you got to be positive about it, and you got to do something about it every day. Whether it's read a script or write something. I mean, these days it really helps to really create your own stuff because you can get it on like instantly, and do something proactive if that's what you want to do. But you got to be dogged. I mean, really, really dogged, because it's like, if I was starting out today, I'd hardly know where to start. I mean, it seems so much competition.
Yeah.
But like when I started, I came out to L.A. I was lucky enough. I got my Screen Actors Guild card in Texas in '72, and all you had to do was pay $75 for it. You didn't need to get a job before you got the card, and you couldn't get a card unless you had a job. So, but there were 30,000 actors in the Screen Actors Guild, and like less than 1% were working on a daily basis. And I don't know. It's foolish, but I just determined that I was going to be one of those 1%.
What drove you? Because it's easy. That's something that's very easy to say.
Because I didn't know what else I was going to do.
Oh, okay.
More than anything else. I already went down to the coffee house and played my guitar, and the lady who was running the place told me that, what you have is good for living rooms, but you'll never really be a musician, And I could have been a musician, but I believed her. But at the same time, I was kind of on the fence between music and acting. I went, okay, I'm going to be an actor, and that's going to be it, because I was already told I was good at that. I was lucky enough. I had a teacher in the first week of college, a great professor at the University of Houston, who was also my brother's acting teacher, and Trey Wilson. You remember Trey Wilson?
Sure.
And a bunch of people. He was a great inspirer, and he really taught acting as a craft, something you could actually touch and use, and I don't want to say method because but it was a craft that you could develop. And start out as an apprentice and work to a journeyman, and you can get to be a master at it eventually. And I just knew I had given a gift at 18. I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
Are you a method actor?
But be dogged.
Are you a method actor on the set? Are you the character when you're there, or?
I don't have maybe yes and no. I mean I learn stuff and then I throw it away and forget it. Just basically that's what we do in life. We learn our lessons and then we just throw them away and forget them and make the same mistakes again, right?
Yes. What's your name, please, and what's your question for Dennis Quaid?
My name is Ken, and welcome, Dennis.
Hey, Ken.
My question was, and you kind of touched on this, because you said you don't know how you're going to play a certain role. Yeah. And I'm wondering, is there a technique that you employ when you are trying to learn a character? You talk about learning a character and you throw it away. But is there something that helps you whenever you get a role and you say, I've got to learn this? What is it that you employ as an actor that helps you learn the character and get into character?
Yeah, I try all kinds of things, really. Just cast about. I look for a pair of shoes. Like when you're in the wardrobe and you just put on a pair of shoes that makes you feel like the character, or it makes you walk like the character. Or I look for something in my past, something in my personality, some kind of like tick, or I see somebody else who has a personality trait or a tick, or why do they walk like that? Why do they do their nose like that when somebody says, it's some little thing that will lead me into the bigger thing. I kind of work from the outside in. I kind of like, by doing something, then I'll start to feel it on the inside, and then it sort of like takes on a life on its own, and then hopefully by 2 weeks into shooting something, I'll know more about the character than the writer does, and it'll be like putting on a suit of clothes every day. That's kind of, I don't know if that explains anything, but it's really got a casting about it in the dark,
Well, I feel like the character you play in The Art of More is, you definitely got the most of that character, and I think everyone will be extremely compelled watching the series on Crackle. I feel like I should ask you what's your favorite word after all these questions. You know what I mean? Like, this feels like an actor's studio sort of thing. I'm getting that vibe. But I thought you were tremendous in Far From Heaven as well, and I know you were in that.
Oh, thanks.
That's a fantastic film, those of you if you haven't seen that. But I want to thank everyone here. I'd like to thank all the folks here at the Apple Store. Of course, I encourage you to go on Crackle, either the app or the website, and check out the show. I think you'll really enjoy it. And before Dennis goes out into outer space, you should support him by watching The Art of More. It's coming on Thursday, November 19th. You can binge it, all 10 episodes, and I think you're in for a real treat. And honestly, it was a real treat speaking to you, Dennis. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for coming, everybody, really.